Lobbies and gentlegrams, let's ponder on the prestigious walking paradox, doxed as Wolf Haley, hailing from California, comically crazy, carving countless creative cornerstones, and bastardly, belligerently belching Beatles, bringing the game goblin glances, the Wolf whiling, styling a generation of skateboarding social media monsters, and cherry bombers, blossoming into a flower boy and pitching his vocals inner scale, all while simultaneously tipping the Richter scale. With earthquakes, Igor's artistry augmented ever since his first tape, makes new layers and levels like a lost call to your spirit. You blink and you miss it, so let's pivot to pondering on Chroma the creator, Tyler tapping glass goblin gator. Whether you're a lover or a hater, this video will suit your flavor, so drop a like and subscribe to do me a little favor. Now, lobbies and gentlegrams, Tyler the creator is one of the most over-dedicated, underrated, over-the-top, overlooked, misunderstood, overachiever in all of hip-hop. But still, regardless of the large selection of hip-hop fans who either don't understand, connect, or simply appreciate his art, Tyler has constantly remained critically acclaimed. He's been a high-selling artist his entire career, and even has several Grammys under his belt, picking up these prestigious trophies before hip-hop legends like Nas or Snoop Dogg, or even newcomers like J. Cole. But regardless, boxing Tyler in as just a rapper wouldn't really be fair. He's a singer, producer, fashion designer, actor, theater director, pro-troll. On the surface, this sounds like the perfect creative, right? Someone who doesn't just make melodies, but designs worlds around each creative endeavor. Their art is loved by the masses. There's no sign of a starving artist or a fall-off. He's selling bigger shows and album numbers than ever before. There's no sign of a creative burnout. There's always an emphasis on evolution from project to project. There's no mustache man crash outs like one of his mentors, Kanye West. There's no signs of slowing down. But still, you see tweets like, "Wow, I can't believe it. Tyler the creator's on a roll, dropping the worst 2 albums back to back. It's unbelievable. When are people gonna admit he doesn't make good music?" Or how about, "Blows my mind that Tyler used to be one of the most compelling artists to keep up with. Then again, I was a teenager, and now all he does is release boring crap from a butt where no matter what, he'll get praised for it because no one's gotten over finishing high school. Incredible phenomena." These tweets are 15 plus years into Tyler's career, and throughout this career, Tyler has never been understood. No matter the immense success, he's never fully fit in. And while part of that is by choice, part of it is a result of never setting himself in a box. Tyler has not only given us new alter egos with each project, but with each new creative endeavor, he actively strips his former brand identity in replacement for a new one, which causes people to misrepresent him or question who he truly is. Take his luxury fashion brand, Golf Lafleur, for example. Before creating this line of fancy perfumes, linen duvets, designer blazers, Tyler was a pioneer in the early 2010s fashion scene for his colorful skateboard hippie streetwear aesthetic. Bright colors, donut prints, rainbow vans, Supreme hats, high socks. Once he created his own line with Lafleur, he completely removed his, Odd Future's, and Golf Wang's name off of any logos from any of the clothes.
Lafleur? Nothing in here says my name. Nothing in here says Wolf or Goblin or Cherry Bomb. This isn't just a artist just putting his name on stuff and it's sold at a merch booth. Being looked at as a certain way to some people, when you switch that in any type of way, some people are like, no. What is this? Who are you? You lost yourself. The money's gotten in your head.
Considering Tyler and Odd Future were pioneers in 2010 streetwear fashion, it's a bold risk doing a 180 on the entire aesthetic, name, and look on your next fashion venture. But Tyler applied this to all facets of his career. Like after his third album, Wolf, when people recognized Tyler more for being a funny guy on the internet than an actual musician, he made an active effort to literally stop being funny.
I was walking down the street. This guy stopped me. He said, "Oh, you're the guy from Ridiculousness." I just wrote a whole string section and like no one knows me. Okay, cool. And then I deleted my Vine and deleted all my funny videos off my Instagram. Maybe I should stop being funny on the internet. Oh no, I hope I don't fall. And maybe people will realize how talented I am. When I realized I wasn't seen as a musician or an artist or how I thought I was like, that will never happen again.
But Tyler didn't just stop trying to be funny. At one point, to prove a point, he not only dropped the entire brash, loud style he was known for the first half of his career, he literally stopped rapping altogether, for the sole purpose of not wanting to be boxed in. Tyler wanted to be remembered as someone like Quentin Tarantino, creating cultural phenomenons like Pulp Fiction. He didn't want to be solely regarded as a rapper. And that's when he completely redesigned his creative identity once again.
I didn't realize I should stop yelling on songs till I was 24.
You don't have to say something edgy. Shut the up and just say it nice. Don't yell on the record like the first 4 albums.
My goal in this album was to shut the up and only speak when I need to speak.
You just said you don't want to rap anymore.
I don't. I'm talented enough to do other things. I'm pretty bored with it. Like, I want to do films. I want people to mention my name. I'm next to Wes Anderson or Quentin Tarantino. I don't want my name to be mentioned next to other rappers.
Y'all think I can't write songs? Oh, okay, I'm gonna write pop songs. I gave him See You Again.
2020 vision.
Tyler has seemed to be in a constant state of never being satisfied. In a good way. It was around this time that he did an interview with GQ Style, gearing up for the release of his Flower Boy album, and Tyler reflected on his catalog, saying that only some of it, in his opinion, has aged well. In particular, he pointed to his 2011 album Goblin, which was definitely the project that put him on the map, and he said that, in hindsight, it lacked a lot of quality. To quote Tyler, he said, "I think Goblin is horrible." He was going in a completely different direction in order to fulfill a dream he had since childhood, making pop songs that can reach radio. And this was done with the purpose of a young kid hearing Tyler's voice while driving around and getting inspired to do something great, the same way Tyler did early on when he first heard Pharrell on the radio at 11 years old. Tyler said, "I've been trying to get on the radio. I haven't been super successful with that, but that time will come. If it's not the next album, then it's 3 after that. I grew up listening to the radio. Although it's not the most important thing, there's still a percentage of me that wants to listen to the radio one day and say, oh, that's my song. A lot of my favorite artists, I heard them for the first time because of radio." And with that mission in mind, he accomplished exactly what he wanted to do with his 5th album, Flower Boy.
This is on the radio right now. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm so happy.
But even while being on the radio, people still doubted Tyler's authenticity. How do you go from the anti-establishment, rebellious, damn near psychotic subject matter of Goblin, or the industrial, indigestible whirlwind of chaos on Cherry Bomb, to now this lush, melody-driven, softer, less bar-focused approach of Flower Boy? Surely the fame got to his head, right? But with those common criticisms came another creative catapult, when Tyler released a full-sung album in Igor, keeping in mind that years before this, he dreamt of expanding beyond being regarded as simply a rapper, striving for Grammys, and a legacy akin to a Tarantino. Igor got Tyler the closest to these aspirations. Well, sort of. Tyler would go on to win his first Grammy Award for Ego, earning the accolade for Best Rap Album of the Year.
Stand up, Igor, Tyler, the creator!
But even in victory, Tyler couldn't help but feel conflicted by the category that he was placed in. In a post-Grammy interview, Tyler reflected on winning the Best Rap Album for a project where he was solely singing, saying, "On one hand, I'm very grateful that what I made could be acknowledged in a space like this, but on the other hand, it sucks that whenever we, meaning guys who look like me, do anything genre-bending or different, it always ends up in the rap or urban category. And I don't like that urban word. It feels like a politically correct way to say the N-word, to me. So when I hear that, I think, why can't it just be pop? Why can't it just be what it is?" Half of me felt like the rap nomination was a backhanded compliment. Like, oh, my little cousin wants to play the game, let's give him the unplugged controller so he can feel good. That's what it felt like. But the other half of me is grateful that the art I made got this kind of recognition. Even though I'm not played on the radio or in places like Target, I exist in a different world. And winning that Grammy Award felt like a poetic encapsulation of Tyler's entire career. He has always been an artist who didn't quite fit into the mainstream mold like his blog era peers in Kendrick, Drake, or J. Cole, or even more experimental artists like Frank Ocean or Mac Miller. Tyler was way more brash, rough around the edges, or by Igor, he took it too far in the other direction. Despite his meticulous attention to detail, storytelling, constant evolution, and sonic experimentation, he's often disregarded as one of the most elite musicians of this generation. His legacy has never been unanimously grasped and regarded as the influential, heavy-hitting, culture-moving effort that it is. And the answer for why that's the case lies within who Tyler truly is, and the journey of how we got here. From the very beginning, Tyler's childhood was different than the other kids he grew up with. He spent his time skateboarding, teaching himself to play piano, and discovering the music that would shape his future sound. Tyler gravitated towards artists like Erykah Badu, Stevie Wonder, and D'Angelo. Tyler reflected on his youth saying, "I remember being 9 and thinking like, you were such a weird 9-year-old. Your friends probably thought you were crazy." Now, Tyler the Creator is not yet an old head. He was born on March 6, 1991 in Hawthorne, California, and his full name is Tyler Gregory Okonma. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name. Mr. Okonma was raised by a single mother alongside his sister, Linda. His mother played a lot of jazz music around the house, which heavily influenced Tyler's artistic taste from a very early age. As just a young kid, he began tearing apart CD cases to draw his own imaginary album covers and completed them with track lists and song names, using only paper and crayons. Since I was a kid, Tyler said, I didn't really enjoy playing with toys. I loved CDs. Every time I went to my mom's friend's house, I'd look through their CDs, open them up, read the credits, and try to learn everything I could. Now, things would change drastically for Tyler around the age of 11 when he heard the song Tape You by Nerd on the radio. The blend of varying genres like funk, rock, and soul all on one record had struck a chord with Tyler. Nerd, the Clipse, and specifically Pharrell Williams would go on to become Tyler's greatest musical inspirations. It was Easter in 2002, and Tyler reflects on this moment saying, I heard the song Tape You on the radio. I was like, what the hell is this? This is the greatest song I've ever heard, but I didn't know who it was. A couple months later, I was sitting in a laundromat waiting for my mom, and another song came on. I was like, this is crazy. I eventually found out both songs were by the same band, and ever since then, I've been a massive stan of the Neptunes and of Clipse. As he grew up, Tyler delved more into his hobbies of skating and exploring different music. You don't have to hear me yap about this though, you can literally find clips of this raw and unfiltered on his old YouTube channel titled Blockshead, where Tyler and his friend Jasper would make skits skating around the city, causing light mayhem and messing around in different record stores.
La la, 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 la. Whack. I.
Now this was way back in 2008, but there was still a slight vision behind this madness. Tyler spoke on these mischievous mini-movies saying, we had a crappy camera and me and Jasper used to upload our dumb skits onto YouTube. I'd be like, let's do this now, because one day I'm gonna get us a show on Adult Swim. Now, aside from the skits, this YouTube channel also features footage of Tyler recording some of his very first tracks. Around the same time, aside from YouTube, Tyler was also flooding content onto MySpace, with 4 separate accounts where he'd post his early music that ranged from rap to jazz to even electronic experimentation. Tyler said, I had like 4, maybe 5 MySpace accounts, a personal one, a random one, and the Tyler the Creator one where I posted all my art, t-shirt designs, and beats when I was 15. I had another account called Polymono where I'd post super weird electronic beats. So by the late 2000s, Tyler is taking full advantage of the internet in an era where hip-hop's biggest internet artists only had an internet presence unintentionally. Think of Lil Wayne, for example, who was the most followed rapper on Twitter in 2009 and shut down the internet and LimeWire with each new mixtape release. Lil Wayne had no idea how to use the internet, but he even live streamed when Kai Cenat was only like 3 years old because his then 15-year-old artist at the time, Lil Twist, had put him onto the benefits of connecting with his fans online through live streaming websites like Ustream. Drop a comment if you remember Ustream. Then you had the Clipse, who had been battling the record label Jive in court, fighting for the release of their second album and putting out free mixtapes in the process. With Pusha T and Malice having a combined age of 100 years old, they obviously didn't understand what it meant to distribute their mixtapes online. They were mad that they didn't see physical copies of their mixtapes being circulated heavy on street corners in around 2005. It's obvious they didn't understand the benefits or impact of online communities or music distribution through websites like DatPiff, DJ Booth, or LimeWire. But they realized the power of their presence on the internet once they had a show years into their legal battle with Jive and years removed from their last album release. And they saw in the crowd, they had this whole new audience of white college kids who were infatuated by their drug-dealing luxury lifestyle and their Pharrell-inspired fashion style. Tyler the Creator was definitely one of those kids who gained the connection to the Clipse and to Lil Wayne through their massive internet presence. But unlike Wheezy and the Thornton brothers, Tyler fully understood the power of building a community online and how that online community would later be funneled into supporting your artistry and essentially how internet clout translated into record sales. So the groundwork was laid in Inglewood, California after Tyler moved into his grandmother's house. Why'd he move there, and how did that change things? Well, as far as Tyler puts it, my mom moved to Sacramento when I was 16. I stayed in LA with my grandmother. She lived in Inglewood, on the edge. The area's nice, but we were in the nasty apartments. It was gross. She was old as hell. So I was just kind of on my own, figuring it out. And while being alone for the first time, Tyler started thinking about how to turn his creativity into a career. It wasn't long before those home movies with Jasper became the early foundation of the Odd Future Collective, or as some call them, Odd Future Wolfgang Unalive Them All. Odd Future's head honcho spoke on the essence of the group's early days, saying, "It's just a bunch of teenagers doing bad stuff we knew could get us in trouble, maybe even arrested, but we did it because we thought it was fun." But the Odd Future concept wasn't initially designed to be like the next Wu-Tang, for example. And Tyler really hates that comparison. I just mean it wasn't supposed to necessarily just be a bunch of dudes straight rapping, right? Tyler details the early vision, saying, "When I was 15, I had this idea for a magazine. I wanted it to have skateboarding, art, music, photography, ceramics, all the little things that I was into. If I'm going to make this magazine, I can't do it alone. So I started looking for the best photographers, skaters, musicians, and writers in LA. I was gathering all these people, and even though the magazine never happened, we became this thing called Odd Future." Odd Future's initial legacy lived amongst rebellious, hipster, skateboarding internet kids. Remember, this is 2008, 2009. They didn't share a fan base with the Drakes, the Wales, the Coles, who were emerging simultaneously. Tyler and Odd Future, they weren't polished, they weren't corporate, their music didn't play on the radio, their lyrics were extremely provocative, some might say immature, and the last thing they cared to be was a proper or politically correct industry puppet. It was that rawness that was exactly what drew in their growing online fan base. And with most of Odd Future's members being teenagers in high school, they didn't have much more than a laptop microphone to start laying the groundwork. But the group began crafting music with whatever resources they had. Although the collective began as a creative magazine concept, they gravitated towards making music pretty quickly after forming. The formation of the group as a whole came pretty naturally. Tyler reflected on their early recording days, saying, "There's this girl named Sid. She makes beats. We were able to record at her house. She's real quiet and chill, but she's got a studio set up in her parents' guest house. We pay her $20 and we get to record for 2 hours. I'm like, say less. I got 10 on me right now. I go to the house, I meet Sid, and come to find out, Sid and Taco are siblings. I'm like, what the F? And before long, Odd Future would release their first collective mixtape, the Odd Future Tape, on November 15th, 2008. It was raw and filled with unconventional beats and lo-fi production. And initially, it was hard for them to expand beyond their die-hard, slow-growing cult-like internet fanbase of kids who appreciated the personalities that came from Odd Future. You gotta remember, this was made by a group of young developing artists who hadn't necessarily found their voices just yet. They were simply doing what they could with what they had. Tyler emphasized this, saying, "One thing you gotta understand about Odd Future is we got famous off our ideas, our first drafts. People were judging off of stuff we made when we were like 19. That was our first stuff ever." And Tyler, sticking to his MySpace roots, started recruiting artists through the platform. Odd Future was watching the internet evolve right in front of them, and they instinctively understood how to use it to their advantage. This was before social media fully exploded, but they already knew how to build an audience online. They became trailblazers during the blog era. They realized early on that their online presence and lifestyle brand needed just as much attention, if not more, than the actual music. But it was the music itself that slowly started improving, and the quantity only ramped up from there. On Christmas Day 2009, an 18-year-old Tyler, the Creator, released his debut album, Bastard. While it was mostly distributed through DatPiff and it didn't have physical CD presence, Tyler considers Bastard his first official album. He produced the whole thing himself using FL Studio, and the album was not for the faint of heart. It was filled with dark, abrasive sounds and lyrics that addressed violence, misogyny, assault, and homophobia. The tone was raw, dramatic, and heavy, and this was the first segment of a 3-part series with his 2 other albums that followed up, Goblin and Wolf. The 3 albums form a trilogy where Tyler speaks with the fictional therapist Dr. TC at Camp Flognaw, which is a mental health correction facility of psychiatry, but is usually described as a summer camp. The lines between fiction and reality are blurred constantly. Now, I found a great deep dive on the entire Wolf trilogy, Tyler's first 3 albums, on Reddit, so shout out to this guy, leather_ad7335, and with the help of his out-of-this-world theories on the entire Wolf trilogy, throughout this video, I'll explain exactly what goes down with each album as they progress. So, Bastard being the first one, has the story kick off with a 19-year-old Wolf Haley, who has been sent to therapy by his teacher. He meets Dr. TC, who's a low-voiced and calm therapist who introduces a 3-part session. Bastard, Wolf, and Goblin. Wolf Haley is hostile and silent at first, but eventually he begins talking. He vents about his rage towards his absent father and his disturbing fantasies about women. He talks specifically about a woman who goes by Rochelle and by the name Sarah, who rejected him after he asked her to homecoming. After repeated rejections from different girls, Wolf Haley captures Sarah and locks her in a basement. As the story progresses, Wolf assaults and unalives her and is eventually found by police eating her remnants. He then hits himself with a firearm, but he doesn't die. On songs like Blow and VCR, he reflects on empty lust, and on the song Wheels, he speaks tenderly about Danielle, a woman he truly loves. He believes if he had someone like her, maybe he wouldn't be so broken. Sarah is the most graphic and important song within this chapter, as it showcases Wolf's depravity, but also his deep desire to be loved. Inglorious ends the chapter with another unaliving attempt. Wolf shoots himself again, but he survives, and the story continues. So as you can see, this is Tyler's debut album, right? And right off the rip, it's deeply dark and disturbed, but it's important to note that with Bastard in particular, but later in the concepts on his Wolf and Goblin albums, Tyler wasn't trying to be literal. He was painting a twisted portrait of a fictional character navigating a world that he created. He said, "The story across these albums is growth. It's personal growth, growing older, but expressing it in a way that's brutally honest and creatively wild. Even with the project's overwhelming darkness, there were moments of lightheartedness and introspection." Like with most of Tyler's music and entire career, he blended ugliness and beauty in one chaotic vision. He said, "Since day one, I wanted to make the prettiest stuff that's borderline boring and the hardest stuff. I've been trying to mix those together since my first album. Literally, the hardest stuff and the prettiest stuff." And even though Bastard was a tough pill to swallow, it really gave Tyler and Odd Future as a whole their first big break. The song French would catch the attention of a friend of Tyler's who had been interning at Interscope Records at the time. He told Tyler that he could probably get the CD into the hands of someone high up at Interscope. And remember, at the time, the mixtape was mainly distributed online through DatPiff. The mixtape had two covers, one blue and one red. Red meant to represent chaos, and blue meant to represent happiness. Tyler had printed 5 physical CDs and went to the Interscope office to hand them out, and when he was there, he ended up meeting David Arandi. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name. He was the head of strategy at Interscope. At the same time, remember, Eminem was signed to Interscope, right? So the marketing manager for Eminem's album, the Marshall Mathers LP, Christian Clancy, he was growing tired of the corporate BS amongst the music industry, saying labels were all about songs that sounded like hits instead of feeling like hits. Everything started to feel like a science project. I felt like I was just taking a check. And yeah, checks are nice, but I wasn't fulfilled. So David, Interscope's head of strategy, and Christian, Eminem's old marketing manager, had worked together in the past. And when David showed Christian Tyler's French music video, he got inspired right away. Eventually, Tyler headed back to Interscope and said, "This guy's like, yo, we've been watching the random stuff you put on YouTube. It's cool, but my friend Christian really wants to meet you." Christian added, "Bro, I love this stuff. It makes me feel 16 again. Makes me want to punch people in the face. I don't know, man. You seem really talented." Tyler and Christian kept in touch, and then the rest is history. Christian became a pivotal figure in Tyler's life, someone who Tyler would later refer to as a father figure, even mentioning him within his music. Clancy later said, "Odd Future reminded me of myself at their age. Without sounding cliche, their energy felt different from anything I'd seen in a while. That not giving a F mindset, that's a powerful place to create from." And bringing Christian into the mix was exactly what Odd Future needed to leverage their cult-like internet fanbase into these big record labels to take things to the next level. Odd Future members continued putting out solo projects, and as we enter into the 2010s, it became impossible to ignore their presence. But this became undoubtedly apparent by the beginning of 2011 when Tyler dropped what's still considered one of his most legendary songs from his catalog, Yonkers. He described Yonkers as Wolf Haley and himself going at it inside his own brain. It's a paradox. Every line contradicts itself. Wolf Haley, that's the guy that I want to be. He's just crazy. Yonkers is me talking to him. He takes over my head. I say stuff like green paper, gold teeth, and pregnant golden retrievers, that's all I want. And then I say money, diamonds, and bees. I don't need them. But that's the same thing. A bee is a pregnant female dog. It's just a big mind F, a paradox. But forget the song. Let's talk about the music video. It shows Tyler eating a roach, yakking it up, and attaching himself to a rope. The minimalist, black and white, vulgar display of pure, unadulterated chaos resonated with many more people than simply these internet fans. The entire music industry was, at the very least, intrigued. The Yonkers music video went viral instantly, with Kanye West even calling it the music video of the year. It was undoubtedly the song that catapulted Tyler, the Creator, into stardom. Somehow he was able to lock in his first national television debut just a couple days after the release of Yonkers, on the Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. And Tyler, being just 19 at the time, jumped on couches, screamed lyrics in guests' faces, and even ended up riding on Fallon's back. The whole appearance on TV was chaotic, unhinged, and unforgettable. But what can you expect when you invite a 19-year-old onto national television 2 days after he releases a music video where he's eating a cockroach? But regardless if it was the right move, at that point, Tyler, the Creator, completely changed the dynamics of the music industry. He showed artists that if you build a strong enough presence online, you don't need traditional industry cosigns to build a legacy. Later that year, Tyler signed a deal with the British label XL Recordings, the same label that would release his sophomore album, Goblin. Goblin is technically the second chapter of the Wolf trilogy, building on the same dark themes introduced in Bastard, with a similar production style, but a much bigger spotlight. Now in the Goblin session on the project, Wolf Haley is back in therapy. He continues to be aggressive, dismissive, and increasingly unstable. Dr. TC tries to get through to him, urging Wolf to grow out of his violent mindset, but Wolf refuses to listen. Songs like She and Her explore more of Wolf's obsessive relationships that we saw previously discussed on his Bastard album. In Her, Wolf cares for a girl who keeps going back to her ex. When she lies and he sees her with her ex again, she suddenly mysteriously disappears. Wolf lies, saying that she moved away. In Troncat, Wolf introduces the voice in his head, the persona that influences his violent actions. This voice is not just a part of him, it is him. In BSD, Wolf kills his friends Taco and Jasper with no warning, no emotion, nothing holding him back. In Window, his remaining friends confront him in an intervention organized by Dr. TC. Each friend pleads for Wolf to change, to get better, but instead, Wolf unalives them all. Only Dr. TC is left. Wolf breaks down, sobbing and asking why nothing has helped. Then Golden is the climax. Wolf is hysterical. He talks about mass shootings, talks about how no one cares about him, and about unaliving himself. Dr. TC tries to calm him down, but Wolf grows more chaotic until security bursts in and sedates him. As he fades, Dr. TC kneels down beside him and reveals the truth. Wolf has been alone this entire time. Dr. TC is just a piece of Wolf's mind. So are every other character. But we'll get to that shortly. See, like I mentioned before, although a lot of this story was mere fiction, Tyler doesn't actually think a lot of this breakout project has aged very well at all. He said, some songs on Goblin aged really well, like She with Frank Ocean, that's still a banger. Others, like Sandwiches, not so much. It's a mixed bag. But regardless of how he feels about the tape now, it's undeniable that this was the project that truly opened the doors for Tyler to make a reality of the dreams and goals that he had early on. Remember how they were making YouTube skits back in 2008, constructing those videos in the form of an Adult Swim show? Well, in March of 2012, that vision turned into a reality as the first episode of Loiter Squad premiered on Adult Swim. Loiter Squad was a creative playground, and it gave every member of Odd Future the chance to shine in their own weird, absolutely absurd way. It was a sketch series similar to Jackass where Odd Future and Tyler had a platform to act, write, and direct. Earl Sweatshirt spoke on the show saying, "The skits come out scattered because that's how our brains work. We grew up watching Family Guy." And with all this newfound attention to the group, several of its members now had the opportunity to develop full-fledged solo careers of their own. It was around the time of this show that we saw the formation of Frank Ocean, Earl Sweatshirt, and Tyler, as we now know them. Remember again, at the time, they were in the later years of their teens, and growing into their 20s while they were in the spotlight of mainstream America had unintentionally forced these rebellious teenagers to inevitably mature. Tyler's maturity was evident in his creative evolution pretty much right after his Goblin album. His third studio album, Wolf, marked a total shift from what fans had come to expect. Overflowing with influences like jazz, soul, punk, and elements of Pharrell's production style, Wolf was critically praised for blending gritty boom-bap rap with smooth jazz vocals and vulnerable lyricism. He released Wolf in early 2013, and with this album is the first time Tyler really made this bold, unspoken declaration that would go on to reflect the entire remnant of his career. Do not try and put him in a box. But that message may have come too late. Wolf marked a significant turning point in Tyler's discography. Instead of relying on the shock value he'd become known for, the lyrics about violent imagery and unsettling themes were now overshadowed by storytelling and honed-in production skills. The quality was noticeably elevated, as Wolf was the first of his albums to be recorded in an actual professional studio rather than on his laptop. And this is the third chapter of the Wolf trilogy, but although it was released after Goblin, it actually takes place before Goblin. It's set in Camp Flognaw, the secluded mental facility for troubled youth. Dr. TC works as the therapist, and after the Bastard chapter, this is when Wolf is officially sent there. The Wolf album overall is set to provide overall context to the story of the Wolf trilogy, and mark a new beginning for Tyler's creative journey, where he kills off all these alter egos and can now continue creating as his true self. Samuel, who's another patient of the camp, is living peacefully with his girlfriend Salem. He is quiet, aggressive, and traumatized by a childhood filled with abuse, bullying, and foster care. Salem is his support system. He doesn't sexualize her and he loves her deeply. Dr. TC is the closest thing that he has to a father. Then Wolf Haley arrives. Samuel immediately dislikes him. Dr. TC assigns Samuel to show Wolf around, and Samuel makes it clear, "Stay far away from me and my partner Salem." But Wolf doesn't listen. He starts getting close to Salem, offering her freedom and intimacy that Samuel avoids. In the song Slater, Wolf Haley begins seducing her. In Bimmer, the affair is full-blown. Salem is cheating on Samuel. Samuel eventually finds out, and in IFHY, he expresses his heartbreak and betrayal. He loves Salem but feels destroyed by her actions. And in a voice clip at the end of the song, Salem reveals Samuel's past, that he ran away from something back at home. In the song Pigs, Samuel's backstory is revealed. He killed bullies and a girl at his school after years of torment. He was only 15. Instead of prison, he was sent to Camp Flognaw. Soon, tensions start to rise. In the song Parking Lot, Wolf is warned that Samuel is coming for him. Wolf replies, "Not if I get to him first." In the song Rusty, Samuel storms through the camp with a firearm, screaming for Wolf, but he misses him. The song Tamale reveals Wolf had actually been kicked out of the camp for, let's just say, touching his private parts. The climax, no pun intended, ends not with confrontation, but absence. Wolf is just gone. In Lone, we hear the final transition that leads back into the Goblin timeline. Now, specifically on the final song of the Goblin album, Golden, again, it's revealed that all these characters were actually Tyler, the Creator, and that the story and era of Wolf Haley was now over. And Tyler can now move on not only in his storytelling, but with the entire sonic landscapes of all of his future music and albums. So in this Golden song off a Goblin, which again is technically the final chapter of the Wolf Haley series, Wolf becomes hysterical and again is sedated by security, and Dr. TC calmly tells Wolf that none of the people or the events in this story were ever real. All of them, including Samuel, Salem, Ace, Danielle, and Dr. TC himself, they're all figments of Tyler's imagination. Dr. TC explains that Wolf is actually Tyler, and that Tyler had been talking to himself the entire time. This is the moment where the story completely shatters. Camp Flognaw, the murders, the therapy sessions, it never existed. All of it took place in Tyler's mind. It's the meta reveal that ties the trilogy together. He had been in a cabin in the woods, mentally unraveling the entire time. But it ends on a cliffhanger until 2012, where we get the Sam is Dead music video. So just to clarify again, his debut album Bastard is chapter 1. Wolf, his third album, is context into the entire Camp Flognaw story and the love affair between Samuel, Salem, and Wolf Haley. And Goblin, his second album, is essentially the end to the entire trilogy, ending off on that cliffhanger where Dr. TC tells Wolf that basically all of this has been constructed in Tyler, the Creator's head. All the characters, the Camp Flognaw itself, Dr. TC, these are all figments of Tyler's imagination. Goblin came out in 2011. By 2012, we get the Sam is Dead music video, and in that video, soldiers surround a shed. Wolf is inside, alone, smoking, and a general in white, who's played by Tyler, the Creator himself, comes in and gives Wolf a golden firearm. Wolf considers ending it all, but he doesn't. The soldiers drag him out and execute him. Then they do the same to Ace and Samuel, three personas who are all played by Tyler. The camera pulls back, the trench is filled with dead characters, and above them all stands Tyler. Not a character, but actually himself. He killed them all. Wolf Haley's dead, Samuel is dead, Ace is dead, the story ends. Tyler, the Creator, walks away. So this was all intentional, right? But aside from filling in the I keep saying Mises pieces, thinking of Reese's Pieces. Aside from filling in the missing pieces of the Wolf trilogy, the Wolf album also gave listeners a much more intimate look into Tyler's mindset. It replaced a lot of the vulgarity on his earlier projects with more mature themes like love, fame, and his absent father, which was a sharp contrast from the emotionally guarded persona that he often projected, not just in his first few albums, but also in the media. In an interview around this time, Tyler is asked if he's mad at his father for deserting their family. And Tyler said, "Nah, dude, I'm stoked. I think if I had a dad, I would have went the normal college route, like a lot of other people. I'm so stoked my life planned out the way it did." See, when Tyler first broke onto the scene with Odd Future, he was young, he was chaotic, and unhinged. Now, the world had to accept him for who he truly is. Not Wolf Haley, not a troubled kid fighting his demons talking to Dr. TC, but the more sonically diverse, honest artist who played piano and listened to Stevie Wonder and Isaac Hayes. And this was the sound he was emulating on his third album, Wolf. Wolf was a breath of fresh air in Tyler's body of work. But with this shift towards a more diverse and honest sound, Tyler knew not everyone would be pleased. And even as he matured, the industry had already assigned him a label that he couldn't shake. After the release of Wolf, Tyler's audience became more diverse, attracting fans from a wide range of backgrounds. With this new confidence in his creativity, Tyler was ready to level up. He was focused on experimenting with melody, harmony, and chord structure, and his next move pushed far beyond his earlier, more straightforward sound. By 2015, Tyler started fully exploring his wide range of musical influences. Jazz, funk, soul, and this blend of new sounds would materialize on his fourth studio album in April of that year, Cherry Bomb. This album marked a major creative departure. Tyler wanted the world to know he wasn't just a rapper. He had a vision, he had taste, he had style. He had wanted to prove he could pull off something no one else could. But the problem was, like I mentioned before, he already had a label on him, an image of what the world thought he was as an artist. And for that reason, early fans and the casuals were completely thrown off. Tyler said it himself. Everyone hated Cherry Bomb, except for real music lovers who care about drums. I opened the rap album with a punk rock song. Most rappers are like, huh? And I spoke about this in a previous video, but I think this album, Cherry Bomb, and the whole era marked a very strange crossroads in Tyler's career that kind of left him isolated. While his contemporaries like Drake, Cole, and Kendrick were giving fans the better versions of what they had already heard in the past, with albums like If You're Reading This, Forest Hills, and To Pimp a Butterfly, by 2015, this fully cemented the Big Three as the undisputed leaders of this generation. And with the music industry as a whole completely shifting towards a brand new form of consumption in streaming, the tides were turning massively. And with Tyler, who was often dismissed in the mainstream as immature or erratic, he now attempted to flip those labels on their head with Cherry Bomb. But Tyler was showing the world that his influences were far beyond hip-hop's norms, and he had no intention of hiding that. But that didn't necessarily help the extremely creative kid who never truly fit in. But aside from the struggle of fitting in within a class of titans like J. Cole, Kendrick, and Drake, Tyler hit an even more serious roadblock: travel bans. Him and all of Odd Future were banned from entering Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. Tyler said, I can't go to the UK, I can't fly there. Even if it was just a connecting flight, I can't even fly over it. I can't get on the plane. I thought I just couldn't go to Australia to perform. I figured I'd just vacation there someday. Then I found out there's a high chance I can't go there either. It affects future opportunities. Like, say I love Whole Foods and I've got a sick idea for something that we could do together. The execs Google me and see I'm banned from the UK, Australia, wherever, and they say, easy no, done.
Theresa May locked you out of the UK for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Theresa said you are inciting terrorism and all that jazz.
That's sick, right? That's
He looks like he's 50.
Tyler was forced to cancel multiple tour dates, and the then Home Secretary cited violent and homophobic lyrics from Tyler's Bastard album as justification for a 5-year ban. And with the lackluster performance of Cherry Bomb and the ban from UK, Australia, and New Zealand, at this stage in Tyler's career, it seemed like his momentum might have been fading. Odd Future never officially disbanded, but its members gradually went their separate creative ways. Sid and Matt Martians branched off to form The Internet, later joined by Steve Lacy, Patrick Page, and Christopher Smith. Earl Sweatshirt forged his own path, developing a cult following with Doris and I Don't Like Stuff, I Don't Go Outside. Frank Ocean, after releasing Channel Orange, became increasingly booked, elusive, and operated like a ghost within the industry. And meanwhile, the backlash to Cherry Bomb left Tyler with a chip on his shoulder. But just like Tyler had done in the past, building the world of Cherry Bomb meant he was now responsible for completely tearing it down and starting from scratch. And this time around, Tyler chose to make something much more personal. He started asking himself questions and answering them in song. Tyler spoke on the recording process saying, for Cherry Bomb, I purposely didn't want to get personal. I just wanted to make songs. On this new record, I was like, alright, write down every feeling. It started with tension, just questions. A lot of the songs are questions. How am I feeling today? What if I go poor again? What if this doesn't work? And that's how a lot of the songs came to fruition. Now, believe it or not, it would only be around this time, all the way 8 years into his major label career, where Tyler would finally get his first entry onto the Billboard charts. During the Cherry Bomb era, he formed a friendship with A$AP Rocky, and that led to the two going on tour together and recording the song Who That Boy, which hit number 89 on the Billboard Hot 100 in July of 2017. With it taking almost a decade to get his first song onto the chart, it wasn't a surprise that Tyler was frustrated with his inability to gain traction on the radio. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, Tyler told GQ in around 2017, "I've been trying to get on the radio. I haven't been super successful with that, but that time will come. If it's not the next album, then it's 3 after that. I grew up listening to the radio. Although it's not the most important thing, there's still a percentage of me that wants to listen to the radio one day and say, oh, that's my song. Because a lot of my favorite artists I heard for the first time on the radio." And just like his goal of having a show on Adult Swim coming true in 2012, Tyler's aim to hit the charts became a reality in the summer of 2017 when he released his deeply personal, introspective, and transformative album, Flower Boy. With this project, it was clear that Tyler had blossomed, no pun intended, and evolved beyond the limitations of his earlier albums. The production was more lush and soothing, the lyrics were tighter, more introspective, and the tracklist flowed like a smooth cohesion from start to finish. The music was beautiful, painful, vulnerable, but still his most bold, yet universal artistic statement to date. Tyler poured everything into that album. He knew it had to land with the world. And it did. See You Again became his first true radio hit. And to this day in 2025, it's still one of the hip-hop songs getting the most amount of daily streams on the Spotify charts. It's a timeless, generational classic. This album marked a massive turning point. Tyler always had a loyal fan base that was slowly growing, but with Flower Boy, he officially broke into the global mainstream. Flower Boy was also by far Tyler's most intimate and introspective album to date. Fans had seen glimpses of this vulnerability on Wolf, but this time it was fully Tyler, more mature, more emotionally present. One particular powerful track, Garden Shed, served as a subtle but significant moment of personal revelation, an embrace of his sexuality. It marked a major transformation for someone who had previously been seen as antagonistic to the very identity he was now expressing. Flower Boy debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 during its first week, and it earned Tyler a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Album of the Year. But he ended up losing to Kendrick Lamar's Damn. Even though he didn't take home the award, Tyler was already planning his next project. He traveled to Italy to begin working on his next studio album, Igor. And to anyone who thought they had Tyler's artistry figured out after Flower Boy, they were definitely mistaken, because Tyler himself wasn't satisfied. Like he's done with every album in the past, it was now time to destroy and rebuild a brand new world. Tyler reflected on this evolution saying, "I think Flower Boy is good. It's my best work thus far, just because it's an easy listen. But it's tame. It's not boring, but it's too good. Like, of course you're gonna like it. There's nothing abrasive or too weird. It's good songs and stuff. I was happy people loved it, but it was missing something. It was mixed too clean. Not in a bad way. It was supposed to sound clean, but it lacked my little tinks, the things I was itching to do. I had to pull back and restrain myself, because that's what the album was meant to be. I love cinnamon, but you can't put it on your spaghetti. And that's why I made Igor, because I needed distortion. I wanted annoying bass, unpredictable changes, 18 bridges on one song. I needed that chaos, but it still had the musical growth from Flower Boy. I really wanted to sing, but my voice is too deep to do what I want. So now I listen to Isaac Hayes and Barry White. I've always kind of hated my voice. Back in 2008, I'd pitch it up. In 2009 and 10, I'd pitch it down. I just hated it. Tyler was never satisfied with his deep voice when it came to actually singing. But over the years, he experimented with different solutions. He pitched his vocals or brought other artists to sing for him. But during the making of Igor, he had a hard time finding someone to sing the hook on Earthquake. He offered it to both Justin Bieber and Rihanna, who had turned it down, which is absolutely crazy to think of in 2025. Eventually, it was actually Kendrick Lamar who had heard what Tyler was working on and offered some words of encouragement that boosted Tyler's confidence. Tyler said, "I know I'm not the best singer, but Kendrick said, oh, this stuff feels like you weren't worried about being technically perfect. It was actual emotion." And when he said that, I was like, you're right. That's why I don't always try to get other people to sing my stuff. Sometimes, F it, I'll sing it. No one else can really sing my truth the way I can. On a side note, this kind of reminds me of Kanye West creating 808s and Heartbreak. Similar to Tyler, Kanye also wasn't confident in his singing voice, but Michael Jackson actually told him that he loved it. And that's what gave Kanye the confidence to pursue a full-length singing album. I actually made a video on that in the early Rapaholics days. I'll put it right here.
Michael Jackson changed hip-hop forever. He did this without ever spitting a verse. How, you might ask? Well, we all know Kanye's album 808s and Heartbreak almost single-handedly created an entire subgenre of hip-hop. But what you probably didn't know is that the album might have never existed without Michael Jackson. In an interview, Kanye had said, "I think Michael was the one that put the battery in my back to do 808s. I played him Good Life, and he was like, 'Who's that singing right there? I like that voice.' It was my voice. He gassed me up. Next thing y'all know, y'all have me singing Heartless. I was like, Michael Jackson told me I could sing. Fuck all of y'all." That album was a massive change from Graduation and the earlier, more lyrically charged music that we got from Kanye. He ditched the bars for auto-tune, 808 drums, and R&B melodies. Because of that, artists like Drake, Kid Cudi, Travis, and Uzi gained the confidence and inspiration to incorporate melody and emotion into their music. But without Michael giving Kanye the confidence he needed to start singing, 808s and Heartbreak might have never happened. So believe it or not, Michael Jackson changed hip-hop forever. He did this without ever spitting a verse.
And while yes, Tyler is only singing on Igor, I wouldn't categorize the album as simply a pop or a singing project. It was still extremely experimental, bringing fans into a whirlwind of distorted sounds, dramatic love stories, and 80s-inspired pop music laced with emotionally honest songwriting. Speaking of the album's overall sound, Tyler said, yeah, it's very 80s pop. That's what I was going for. Idealistic love and idealistic heartbreak. That's what the 80s were about, not holding anything back. And with Igor, Tyler entered a new phase of artistic maturity. He came to understand that his creative quirks had evolved from raw imperfections into polished hallmarks of his unique style. The album cemented his place as one of the most bold and uncompromising artists of this generation. The album dropped in May of 2019, and with it came a special note for first-time listeners. In that message, Tyler made it clear. He wanted people to experience Igor with an open mind. Igor, this is not Bastard, it's not Goblin, not Wolf, it's not Cherry Bomb, and it's not Flower Boy. This is Igor, pronounced E-Gore. Don't go into this expecting a rap album. Don't go into it expecting any album. Just jump into it. I believe the first listen works best all the way through. No skips, front to back. No distractions either. No checking your phone, no watching TV, no holding convo. Full attention towards the sounds where you can form your own opinions and feelings towards the album. Some go on walks, some drive, some lay in bed and sponge it all up. Whatever it is you choose, fully indulge with volume. As much as I would like to paint the picture and tell you my favorite moments, I would rather you form your own. If we ever cross paths, feel free to articulate what those moments were for you. Keep it quick though, I'm not trying to have an Oprah episode. Stank you smelly mucho. And I think this is where the world fully started understanding that Tyler the Creator was always meant to be misunderstood, unpredictable. He was constantly expanding and changing as a creative, and you were either going to follow the journey or get completely left behind. And this stop on the train was an easy one for most people to accept. Yes, Igor was completely different from Flower Boy, Cherry Bomb, the Wolf series. Everything was a dramatic change from the characters that Tyler previously played. The wig and sunglasses Piano Man was completely unrecognizable from the donut button-up skateboard slanging Supreme Psycho in the Odd Future days. But this album was 10 years in the making. From people recognizing Tyler more for his skits than his raps, to then boxing him in as a weirdo rapper in this hippie group, to his albums like Cherry Bomb flopping on the charts and Tyler getting lost in the shuffle of the industry, to Flower Boy where day one fans started screaming that Tyler had sold out, Igor was Tyler taking all the criticisms of each of his releases thus far into his career and completely flipping the narrative in his favor, while flipping off any naysayer. You didn't like the vulgarity of Bastard and Goblin, you now get clean-cut love albums like Earthquake. You didn't like the distortion or grittiness of Cherry Bomb's production, Igor doubles down on the experimental soundscape of Cherry Bomb with a softer undertone so it's more digestible. You thought Flower Boy was too digestible? Igor now simplified the blueprint to make something that the entire mainstream could enjoy. Igor showed the world that if you hated Tyler on the radio, you now have to hear him on there twice as much, and the glances of singing that we saw in Flower Boy was simply the prelude to introduce a flourishing pop star in Igor. And it seems like the idea of playing it safe was what really triggered Tyler into delving headfirst into this brand new sound. And yeah, most of the world embraced this bold change with open arms. The album was Tyler's most successful to date, granting him his first #1 on the Billboard Hot 200, selling over 150K in its first week. But some people still didn't understand that Tyler was meant to be misunderstood. Take DJ Khaled for example. The Middle Eastern twin of Tubby the Twitch streamer Big Mac Snackademics, DJ Khaled had released an album on the same day as Igor. And after a relentless We the Best campaign and a slew of album sale bundles tied to energy drinks in an attempt to artificially inflate the numbers of his project, Khaled ended up coming in second place on that week's chart, losing to the mystery man Tyler the Creator. And Khaled was not happy about this.
I make albums so people can play it and you actually hear it. You know, driving your car, you hear another car playing it. You know, go to the barbershop, you hear them playing it. You know, turn the radio on, you hear them playing it. You know, it's playing everywhere. It's called great music. It's called albums that you actually hear the songs. Not no mysterious shit You never hear it.
Like, he wasn't wrong. I'm not in the barber shop. I'm not at the club. I'm not skitty. I'm not in the back of the Maybach. But I ain't say nothing. I just let that number one speak. Ego had to deal with that because his whole identity is being number one. When he didn't get that, that sat with him longer than that moment. I moved on. I went and did some shows. We went to London. Cool. Didn't think about it. That sat with him because his whole identity is we the best. We the number one. When the underdog to him took that away from him, ego was deflated.
Notice how Tyler says he chose to initially stay quiet and just let that number one album speak for itself. Then think about how a younger Tyler in the 2011 Goblin era would have reacted to Khaled's comment. Aside from beefing with Australia and the UK and getting banned from those countries, this video barely spoke on the slew of internet beefs that Tyler had engaged in early on, becoming a pioneer in the art of rage bait. Old Tyler would have had a field day trolling DJ Khaled for being sad about album sales, but the new Tyler, he had a bigger vision. Remember, he killed off Wolf Haley years ago, and even though he might have not had the acceptance of a DJ Khaled or anyone who still didn't understand that Tyler's music was a lot more than simply a mystery, each new mysterious melody moved the musician closer to massive moments he manifested since a kid. Remember how he predicted he'd win a Grammy? Well, Igor was the first project that turned that vision into a reality. And I think Tyler's acceptance speech fully encapsulates his entire career and public perception. Tyler got on stage to accept the reward and said, "To my mother, you did a great job raising this guy. To the Clancys, my manager, you guys took a seed and watered it. Thank you for trusting my ideas. To my fans and label, again, thank you for trusting my crazy ideas. To the new fans, to the old ones, all the crazy stuff I do, I never fully felt accepted in rap and stuff. So for y'all to always stand by me and get me here, I really appreciate that." What's ironic though is that in this speech, Tyler discusses never fully feeling accepted within rap, and while this is one of the greatest accomplishments any rapper can ever ask for, a Grammy for Best Hip Hop Album, Tyler only accomplished this with an album that completely omitted any form of rap music. And of course, like we touched on earlier, after the Grammys, Tyler later voiced his frustration with how black artists are boxed into specific categories, regardless of the actual music that they create. Tyler gave a post-Grammy speech saying most black artists get stuck having to be categorized as either rap or R&B. And like, a lot of this stuff isn't really R&B. It's neo-soul, alternative, contemporary, and it all just gets lumped into one category. Now, as Igor continued to make waves across the industry, Tyler found himself at a crossroads. He had just carved a bold, genre-defining path with his last project. Achieving the chart-topping success, critical acclaim, stadium tours, and Grammy wins had now put Tyler in rarefied air with the heavyweights of his generation. Cole, Kendrick, Drake. While it always felt like Tyler was a few steps behind the big three from a success standpoint, after Igor, he was now creeping up. But because of this meteoric rise and the start of a new decade, everyone was now asking, what's next for Tyler the Creator? Following the experimental, genre-shattering success of Igor, it wasn't just that expectations were high, it was that people following Tyler the Creator were more confused than ever. You went from what people called horrorcore rap to jazz and soul-inspired, more mainstream-tailored rap, to then full-blown singing over pop production. It's like, where do you take it now? What change or evolution could you do that you haven't already done? What creative juice do you have left in you? Well, maybe it didn't need to be that complicated. When reflecting on his place in the hip-hop ethos after Igor, Tyler said, "It got to a point where I'm just like, Kanye said it in one of these songs. Are these guys really that much better than me?" You start to question that, and it didn't feel like I was being seen. That feeling pushed me to create Cherry Bomb, because I wanted to be the best producer ever. I told myself I can do every genre. But when that came out, people were like, nah. So I said, you think I can't write songs? Okay. Then I gave them See You Again, Boredom, 9/11. That's where that came from. Then they said, oh, he's playing it safe now. I'm like, safe? You're still playing with me? Okay. Then I made Igor. But I didn't just go left. I gave them those pop records that they thought I couldn't do. Then they were like, oh, he was never that good of a rapper anyway. That's why he pitches his voice and sings. Oh, really? Okay. So to anyone questioning if Tyler still had bars in him, they got their answer with his 7th album, Call Me If You Get Lost. He basically said, I could do whatever type of music I want. But if you're questioning whether I could go toe-to-toe with the greats, especially of my generation, I'm going to show you I can do that and a lot more. Released in 2021, Call Me If You Get Lost became Tyler the Creator's second #1 album after Igor. And just like Igor, this album also earned Tyler his 2nd Grammy win for Rap Album of the Year. Only this time, this was an actual rap album. The project is narrated by DJ Drama, and it's packaged like a Gangsta Girls mixtape. The concept surrounds Tyler's newest alter ego, and you guys hated in my last video how I pronounced this, so I'm gonna double down on it. Sir Tyler Boulderdale. Luxury and travel encapsulate the identity of Sir Boulderdale, and his journey on this mixtape-style project is a balance of romance, love, fame, reflection. The Boulderdale identity reflects Tyler's sense of worldliness and sophistication, but also his frustration with not being able to translate that into the relationship that he truly wants. Similar to his last two projects, the album blends hip-hop with jazz, soul, reggae, but also incorporates these varying genres through dense, cinematic production. There's a lot of beat switching and a seamless balance of aggressive rap and smoother hooks. Lyrically, the album explores romance and heartbreak, with conflicts like love triangles and Tyler's fight for personal growth. He suffers an identity crisis, battling opulence versus emotional emptiness, as he basks in his life of fame. And while at its core, Call Me If You Get Lost is a hip-hop record, the most hip-hop sounding Tyler has been, arguably since Wolf, the project also blends jazz, soul, reggae, pop, while maintaining a cinematic feel through abrupt beat switches, genre shifts mid-track, strong features, and more. But while the album nods back to Tyler's earlier rap-driven sound, aside from this project sharing a similar braggadocious tone, the perspective on Call Me If You Get Lost is miles more mature. The messaging and sound is refined, the storytelling is more immersive, and sonically it's as adventurous as Igor and Flower Boy, as Tyler feels fully free to shift tones, from harsh braggadocious raps to delicate hooks, balancing his gravelly deep voice with his softer singing voice, and concocting various creative experiments throughout the project through these strange pairings, like placing a Lil Wayne interlude onto a jazz beat, or bringing trap street rappers like 42 Dugg and NBA Youngboy into Tyler the Creator's universe. The deluxe edition of Call Me If You Get Lost also closed off with one of Tyler's most honest and vulnerable tracks to date, Sorry Not Sorry. In the song, he confronts and reflects on his past, laying everything bare, rapping, "Sorry I don't call you no more. I'm sorry that the 4 minutes where you see your son feels like a chore. Sorry I'm your kid. Sorry we ain't as close as we should have been. Sorry to my old friends, the stories we could have wrote if our egos didn't take the wheel. Sorry to the freaks I let on, who thought their lives would change because I gave them head, but instead I sped off. Yeah, I know I'm dead wrong. Sorry to the guys I had to hide." In the music video, he embraced his many alter egos and eventually reconciles those pieces of himself in front of his audience. But now it was time to look inwards, drop the alter egos and the personas that Tyler wants to embody, and instead take the mask off to truly embrace who he is. When you look at Tyler's career up until Call Me If You Get Lost, it's remarkable in its evolution. The growth from his early, gritty, shock value heavy music to his lush and conceptual storytelling is something we've seen from very few rappers in this generation. No matter what criticism or challenges came his way, Tyler the Creator always carried a remarkable sense of self-confidence, an inner compass that guided him through chaos, experimentation, and transformation. But in 2024, that confidence would be put under a magnifying scope for his most self-reflective project to date. At this point, Tyler is not just on top of the world, but he's building worlds that millions of fans are now immersed in. He's in rarefied air with the likes of mentors such as Kanye West and Pharrell, where we see Tyler producing at a high level and designing fashion lines with massive luxury brands like Louis Vuitton. We're seeing his legacy catch up quickly to the big three, building a global impact nearly as strong, headlining his own 50,000 plus person annual festival with Camp Flog Gnaw, similar to J. Cole's Dreamville Festival, Drake with OVO Fest, or Kendrick with the Pop Out. The only difference is, none of these artists except for Tyler named their festival after an imaginary psych ward that was the setting for their first three projects. But regardless of the success that Tyler had amassed, it would only be in his character to do a complete 180 from the celebratory, grandiose themed aesthetic of Call Me If You Get Lost to give us a true look into the deepest depths of who Tyler, the human, truly is. And this came in the form of Tyler's 8th studio album, Chromacopia. The project is presented as a deeply personal narrative, thematically structured like a diary. The tracklist is being guided by his mother through spoken interludes that offer reflections and advice that frame the album's introspective core. Chromacopia is an exploration of identity, childhood trauma, moral ambiguity, and emotional reckoning. Tyler introduces a new alter ego, Saint Chroma, who represents a higher version of himself, an emotional and creative compass, setting the stage for a journey through self-examination and internal conflict. Across the album, Tyler unpacks his relationship with his absent father, his evolving sexuality, and the pressures of fame, not as glamour, but as emotional isolation. Tracks like Him dissect the resentment and confusion tied to paternal absence. Hey Jane explores the emotional aftermath of an abortion and the complexity of choosing between empathy and self-interest. I Killed You dives into the feelings of betrayal of his people, racial identity, and conformism. And Darling I reflects on his discomfort with monogamy, questioning whether commitment is a virtue or a cage. Throughout the album, Tyler confronts the divide between his public persona and his private fears, expressing guilt, desire, longing, paranoia, and ultimately, defiance. The album functions as both confession and cleansing, each song peeling back another layer of who Tyler is beneath the aesthetics, beneath the mask, with his mother's voice grounding the chaos in memory, love, and lived experience. Chromacopia is ultimately a reckoning with the self, every aspect of a human, from the messy, unsparing, chaotic nature, capturing Tyler at his most emotionally raw and thematically ambitious. I feel like a broken record describing how with each artistic evolution, Tyler would continue seeing an elevation in his success. Chromacopia would be unconventionally released on a Monday instead of a Friday, which is the day that all music is released, but Tyler was protesting against that because he felt like Mondays are when people restart their weekly routine and they have more time to actually be alone and fully digest the album. And even with the late release, it still managed to be the highest selling project of not just the week, but of Tyler's entire career, granting him another #1 on the Billboard charts with just less than 4 days of sales tracking. But hey, you want a little spoiler? He'd go on to do the same thing less than 9 months later with his newest album, Don't Tap the Glass. It was also released on a Monday. It also hit #1 on the charts with just 4 days of sales tracking. And that's 5 years of 5 back-to-back #1 albums for Tyler, since the Call Me If You Get Lost Deluxe Edition released a year after the original, and it hit #1 in 2023. So now, if Tyler drops his 10th project in 2026 and that one hits #1, he'll become the first rapper in history to have an album hit #1 every single year for 6 years in a row. He came a long way from DJ Khaled clowning his first #1 album for being too mysterious. And if you're wondering how Tyler decided to switch things up on Don't Tap the Glass after giving us his most vulnerable effort on Chromacopia, well, he actually kept it much more simple. The album at its core is a fun, lighthearted dance album riddled with the most Pharrell influence I think I've ever heard on a Tyler project. He emphasized to his fans before it released that this was not a concept project. Instead, the album came with 3 different rules. #1, body movement, no sitting still. #2, only speak in glory, leave your baggage at home. #3, don't tap the glass. While explaining the rules to this project, Tyler said, I asked some friends why they don't dance in public, and some said because of the fear of being filmed. I thought, damn, a natural form of expression and a certain connection that they have with the music is now a ghost. It made me wonder how much of our human spirit got killed because of the fear of being a meme. All for having a good time. I just got back from a listening party for this album, and man, it was one of the greatest nights of my life. 300 people, no phones allowed, no cameras, just speakers and a sweatbox. Everyone was dancing, moving, expressing, sweating. It was truly beautiful. I played the album front to back twice. It felt like that pent-up energy finally got released, and we craved the idea of letting more of it out. There was a freedom that filled the room, a ball of energy that might not translate to every speaker that plays this album, but man, did that room nail it. This album was not made for sitting still. Dancing, driving, running, any type of movement is recommended to maybe understand the spirit of it, only at full volume. Don't tap the glass. And in my opinion, the glass is a metaphor not just for a cell phone, which 90% of the world spends 90% of their day on, addicted and engulfed in the toxicity of online reputations and social media simulations, all a creation through the glass of the iPhone. But I think the glass that Tyler asks us not to tap is also a mirror. Staring into the mirror forces you to question your identity, who you are, what your legacy will be. Aside from someone recording you and posting it onto social media for the whole world to see, staring into the mirror is the ultimate form of judgment. But instead of being judged by external forces, in the mirror, you're judging yourself. Now let's flip that. If Tyler had listened to external judgment or fell victim to his own internal insecurities, how would he be able to constantly evolve, excel in every avenue, take risks? How would he ambitiously pursue a new creative endeavor each year? How would he respond to the world misunderstanding or mislabeling him? How would he label himself if he didn't embrace every alter ego, every aspect of his creative spectrum, every trial and tribulation that he went through? If Tyler tapped the glass and didn't embrace what he saw in that mirror, we may never have the most misunderstood, mysterious man in music. But let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you in the next one.